Since Confederation, Canadians have carried forward an ideal: peace, order, and good government. These principles, rooted in our constitutional heritage and upheld under the Crown, ensure stability and responsible government. With parliamentary democracy at Canada's core, her central government is formed by the will of the people. Men and women are sent to Parliament Hill in Ottawa by the citizens of Canada, empowered to represent us all and to make the laws of the land. Behind all of this are Canada's elections. On election day, from coast to coast to coast, school gyms, town halls, and community centers are transformed into polling stations. Tables are arranged, ballot boxes are set up, and doors are opened to millions of Canadians looking to exercise their civic duty. Behind every ballot is a series of strict procedures to uphold the integrity of the vote, ensure fairness, accessibility, and transparency, and to inspire public confidence. From voter registration to the final count, Canada's elections are designed to reflect the choices of her citizens. This is how Canada protects the vote. Election security is handled not by any one entity. While many Canadians know Elections Canada, it is only one part of a broader system. The Office of the Chief Electoral Officer, known commonly as Elections Canada, is a nonpartisan entity that reports directly to Parliament. It is responsible for administering elections, procuring materials, running polling places, training workers, and maintaining the National Register of Electors. It must always be ready to deliver an election, especially in a minority government context. Elections Canada also reports to Parliament on potential improvements to the voting system and launches public campaigns to encourage voting and combat misinformation. Elections Canada does all of this in keeping with the Canada Elections Act. Working alongside them is the Commissioner of Canada Elections. The Commissioner investigates possible contraventions of the Act, including improper campaigning, potential voter fraud, and election interference. It is the election watchdog of Canada. The Commissioner can issue monetary penalties and can refer cases for prosecution. It is open to complaints and grievances of Canadians. In other words, Elections Canada administers the Act, the Commissioner of Canadian Elections enforces it. Additionally, the Security and Intelligence Threats to the Elections Task Force, or SITE, tackles criminal activities that influence the electoral process in Canada. This task force comprises of the Communications Security Establishment, or CSE, which combats cyber threats, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, or RCMP, which investigates criminal activity and protects candidates and voters, and Global Affairs Canada and the Canadian Security Intelligence Service, or CSIS, which reports on potential interference by foreign actors. In an increasingly interconnected world, it has never been easier for foreign governments to attempt to sway Canadian votes through the spread of disinformation. Canada's electoral system is designed such that elections are decided by Canadians and Canadians alone. Elections Canada's 850 permanent staff in Gatineau, Quebec, continuously work to maintain one of the most important foundations of the electoral system, the National Register of Electors. This is Canada's permanent database of registered voters, and Elections Canada updates it year-round with information from over 40 data sources, including from the CRA, Immigration Canada, and provincial and territorial agencies, to ensure that the list is up to date. This process adds newly eligible voters, updates records to reflect changes in address or name, and removes deceased, duplicate, or fraudulent entries. An accurate voters list makes it easier for Canadians to participate in voting. Most voters would have already been registered in their current riding before the election is even called, leading to a faster and smoother experience at the polls. It also makes it harder for irregularities to occur. In addition, Elections Canada continuously fights the spread of misinformation and disinformation in a variety of ways. It debunks common myths with electoral facts. It proactively posts on social media in response to misinformation campaigns. It provides resources to elementary and secondary teachers to encourage critical thinking and spark interest among students. Finally, as previously mentioned, it works closely with the CSE to combat cybersecurity attacks. The moment an election is called, returning officers for each district get to work in open local Elections Canada offices to support voters, candidates, and workers. During the campaign period, the election workforce increases 200-fold, from 850 to around 230,000 staff. The process for recruiting election staff is open and transparent. Any Canadian citizen over the age of 16 can apply with Elections Canada. Parties, which fielded candidates in the riding at previous election, can also nominate workers. The presence of workers nominated by different parties acts as a safeguard, ensuring transparency and mutual oversight. The process to become a candidate is also open and transparent. Canadian citizens aged 18 and over, except for some judges or those convicted of certain crimes, are eligible to run. To safeguard the election and cut down on fraudulent or frivolous candidacies, all prospective candidates must collect 100 signatures from persons who reside within the riding, and each must be countersigned by a witness in order to end up on the ballot. Canada is divided into 343 electoral districts or ridings of approximately equal population. Every few years, an independent commission revises the boundaries of the districts using census data. Each electoral district is subdivided into smaller polling divisions. Each polling division corresponds to a physical voting desk or poll on election day. Multiple polls can be held at the same location, such as a school gym, in what is known as a central poll. On polling day, voters' lists are printed for each voting desk. To prevent persons voting more than once, an elector's name appears only on one list, the list of the polling division in which they reside. It is for this reason that voters may only vote at their assigned polling location. The Deputy Returning Officer, or DRO, the official responsible for a voting desk, asks voters to prove their identity and address. Voters may do so in three ways: through one primary photo ID, through two pieces of secondary ID, or through vouching, which makes voting accessible for those without ID. While it is important to keep elections secure, it is equally important to ensure that all eligible voters can exercise their charter right to vote. It is for this reason that anyone who can demonstrate that they reside within the electoral district and polling division through any of the three voter ID options must be allowed to cast their ballot. If the Deputy Returning Officer has any doubt as to the voter's eligibility in spite of the fact that they have proved their name and address, for example, if the DRO recognizes the voter and believes that they are not a Canadian citizen, the voter must still be allowed to cast their ballot, provided they take an oath to affirm that they understand and comply with the eligibility requirements to vote and sign a form. Similarly, if a voter's name is already struck off the list either because the records indicate that they had voted in advance or by mail, the voter must also be allowed to vote if they insist that Elections Canada had made an error, that they had not voted in advance, nor had they requested a mail-in ballot. They must take an oath to this effect. The voting status certificate is filled out. In both cases, Elections Canada will follow up, ensuring accountability and deferring suspected cases of fraud to the Commissioner for Investigation and Prosecution. Let's look at the operations of the central poll by following Chris, a first-time voter who just turned 18. When Chris arrives, he is greeted by information officers who direct voters to the appropriate desk. He shows them his voter information card, which shows that he is already registered and states clearly the polling division in which he resides. The information officers direct him to his voting desk, 105. Although a voter card can greatly facilitate the process, it is not needed to vote. Voters without a card are directed to registration officers who check to see if a voter is already registered, register voters if they aren't, update voter registration, and help voters to identify the polling division to which they belong. As he moves towards his poll, Chris notices candidate representatives who get to witness operations to ensure transparency. He also sees the central poll supervisors, covering breaks and assisting with more complex situations as needed. At his poll, Chris presents the deputy returning officer with his driver's license, a photo ID under option 1, which proves his name and address. The DRO finds his name on the list of electors and crosses it out. The DRO then initials the ballot and issues it to Chris. The ballot has a tab with a serial number attached. Chris goes behind the voting screen to vote in secret. Meanwhile, the DRO fills out additional paperwork. He copies the sequence number found beside Chris's name from the list of electors to a tracking form, which is provided to candidates or their representatives every 60 minutes. Candidates who receive a semi-redacted copy of the riding's voters list can use this information to run get-out-the-vote campaigns and track turnout. Again, this is a form of mutual oversight and reinforces the transparency of the process. If this were an advance poll, the DRO would also complete an entry on the record of electors, which allows the local returning office to easily identify advance voters and strike them off as having already voted when printing the list for election day. As previously mentioned, if a voter who is already struck off insists that they had not already voted, the voting status certificate is filled out and later cross-referenced with the record of electors. When Chris returns to the DRO, he hands back his ballot. Without unfolding it, the DRO matches the number printed on the counterfoil with the number on the stub in the booklet. They also check that the ballot was initialed by them. This is to ensure authenticity. He then removes the counterfoil, thereby removing any identifiable mark that could trace the ballot back to the elector. He hands the ballot back to Chris for him to cast into the box. The DRO takes the voted box on the list beside Chris's name. At any time during the process, candidate representatives may raise objections or grievances. These are dealt with by the DRO with support and oversight from the supervisor. Throughout the day, the DRO tallies the number of names beside which the voted box is ticked. They also count the number of ballots yet to be used. These numbers must reconcile. The sum of unused ballots and ballots cast must equal the total number of ballots received at the start of the day. Any discrepancies are referred to the supervisor and noted in the logbook, which will be reviewed in the case of a recount or contested election. This reconciliation process helps ensure accuracy and detect any discrepancies early on. It's election night, and the polls have closed. Advance votes are generally stored and counted at the Elections Canada office. They can only be counted after the ordinary polls close. Ballots cast at ordinary polls are counted on-site. At every count, there are witnesses present. Usually, they are candidate representatives. If no representative is present, by law, at least 2 electors need to be present to witness the count. 2 election officials are required to complete the counting process. The poll's deputy returning officer is the counter, while a registration officer or information officer will join them as the recorder. The DRO will begin by breaking the seal. They will then take ballots out one by one. For each ballot, they will check that it is initialed by them, confirming its authenticity. They will then unfold and announce the voter's intention verbally before showing the ballot to the recorder and all witnesses. The recorder makes one tally under the corresponding candidate's column. The DRO places the ballot into the corresponding candidate's pile. This process repeats until all ballots have been counted. The DRO must accept and count a ballot if it is marked in one and only one circle to the right of the candidate's name, with an X or other mark that is unable to be used to identify the voter. If the voter is identifiable in any way, or if the voter's intent is ambiguous, the DRO must reject the ballot. It is set aside. At any time in the process, witnesses and the recorder may raise objections. The DRO should listen to the objections and make their decision. The DRO gets the final say on whether to accept the ballot and on the interpretation of the voter's intent. Any objections are documented in the logbook, which will be reviewed in the case of a recount or contested election. Once all ballots are counted, the empty ballot box is shown to all witnesses present. The DRO will proceed to count the number of ballots in each candidate's pile. The counter's number is compared against the recorder's tally. If the totals do not match, all ballots in the pile are recounted. If the numbers still don't match, the number of ballots in the pile is considered correct. This provides redundancy in the process. All counted ballots are placed into a sealed envelope, which is kept secure for a period of 10 years in the case of a recount or contested election. The DRO will then complete the statement of the vote, which reports the results of the election at the poll. It also has a section for a final reconciliation of ballots. The statement is signed by the DRO, recorder, and all witnesses. It is then handed over to the supervisor, who will call in the results. This form makes 2 carbon copies. The DRO will retain the pink copy for 60 days. Elections Canada will retain the other copy and the original for a period of 10 years, again for redundancy in the case of a recount or contested election. Once the results are called in, they are reported immediately to the Canadian public through 2 sources: Elections Canada's website and the media consortium, made up of the CBC, CTV, Global, etc., ensuring redundancy and transparent results.
We are back to majority government status in Canada.
After all the votes have been counted, Elections Canada continues to work to ensure the accuracy of the results. The tallies reported on election night are considered unofficial results. In the days that follow, returning officers review all the original statements of the vote within 7 days to ensure the tally received on election night through telephone by potentially fatigued officials in a loud environment is accurate. The returning officer may not open sealed envelopes containing ballots, nor can they recount any votes to prevent tampering. This final tally is reported as the official results and is declared on Elections Canada's website and through the Canadian Gazette, the government's official paper. The only case where the sealed envelopes containing marked ballots would be unsealed and ballots recounted would be if a judicial recount occurs. If the final results show a tie or a margin of victory of less than 0.1%, an automatic recount is triggered. A recount can also be requested by a candidate or elector within 4 days of the final results being declared. In any recount, a judge of a superior court of a province presides over the proceedings. Candidates are allowed legal counsel in addition to representatives during the count. Electors may also contest an election before either the federal court or superior court of a province if they suspect wrongdoing, fraud, or illegal activities that led to the election's outcome. At the end of the court proceeding, the judge can either dismiss the case or annul the results of the election, in which case a by-election will be held in the riding. Most recently, a federal judge annulled the results in the riding of Terrebonne, Quebec, due to irregularities during the 2025 election with mail-in ballots. At that election, the candidate had won with only 1 vote. These legal remedies provide an additional layer of accountability within Canada's electoral system. Every Canadian over the age of 18 now has a say in how our government is run, but it hasn't always been this way. Throughout our young nation's history, the right to vote had to be fought for by women, Aboriginal peoples, and visible minorities. The right to vote is one that citizens of many other countries don't get to enjoy. In a world of growing misinformation and distrust in public institutions, it has never been more important to protect our democracy. Although an election happens only once every few years, their outcomes touch every Canadian's life. By staying informed and exercising our right to vote, we each play a role in safeguarding a democratic system that generations before us worked to build. And we can all help to ensure that democracy remains resilient not just for one moment, but for generations to come.